The smell hit me first. Expensive cologne mixed with guilt and lies. It clung to Renee's silk blouse like a confession she'd never make. I stood in our kitchen at 2:30 in the morning, watching my wife of 15 years stumble through the front door, her designer heels dangling from manicured fingers, that same guilty giggle bubbling up from her throat. "Working late again?" I asked, my voice flat as day-old beer. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. She jumped, nearly dropping her phone. The screen lit up with a text from JD that made my stomach clench. "Can't wait to see you again tomorrow, beautiful." "Jesus, Eli, you scared me." She pressed a hand to her chest, all dramatic flair. "Yeah, the Morrison account is eliminating me. You know how it is." I knew exactly how it was. The Morrison account had been wrapped up 3 weeks ago. I'd seen the invoice myself when I balanced our books, something she'd stopped doing once the lies started piling up. Right, the Morrison account. I opened the refrigerator, pulled out a beer, and twisted off the cap with more force than necessary. "Funny thing about that account, Renee." Her eyes darted to the stairs, calculating escape routes. Classic Renee, always looking for the exit when things got uncomfortable. "What's funny about it?" I took a long pull from the bottle, savoring the moment. 15 years of marriage teaches you to read the signs. The way she touched her neck when she lied, how she couldn't meet my eyes when guilt was eating her alive, the slight tremor in her voice when she was about to get caught. "It's been closed for 3 weeks. The color drained from her face like water from a broken sink. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again like a fish gasping for air. There were some follow-up meetings. You wouldn't understand the complexity of—" "Cut the shit, Renee." The words hung in the air between us like smoke. She flinched as if I'd slapped her. In 15 years of marriage, I'd never spoken to her like that. Never dropped the pretense of the understanding husband, the supportive partner, the guy who believed every lie she fed him. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from JD. This time it was a photo, a shirtless mirror selfie with the caption, "Thinking of you." "Interesting follow-up meeting," I said. She snatched the phone away, but it was too late. We both knew it was too late. "It's not what you think," she whispered. "Really? Because I think you're sleeping with some muscle-bound moron named JD while I'm home with Tyler, wondering why my wife doesn't love me anymore." The words tasted bitter, but they needed to be said. 15 years of swallowing my pride, of making excuses for her behavior, of being the good husband while she treated our marriage like a convenience store, something to use when she needed it. Renee's face crumpled, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Eli, please, let me explain." "Explain what? How you've been lying to my face for months? How you've been spending our money on hotel rooms with your boyfriend? How you've been making me feel like I'm crazy for noticing you don't give a damn about this family anymore?" She started crying then, big, theatrical tears that might have worked on me 6 months ago. But I was done being her audience. "I never meant for this to happen," she sobbed. It just did. You don't understand what it's like being married to someone who— Someone who what? Someone who loves you? Someone who's been busting his ass to keep this family together while you're out playing house with some gym rat? You're always so angry, Eli. So bitter about everything. JD makes me feel alive again. JD. Even his name sounded like a bad cologne commercial. "Where'd you meet him? Let me guess. The gym where you supposedly started that new fitness routine?" Her silence was answer enough. I finished my beer and set the bottle down with deliberate care. Everything I did now had to be deliberate, controlled, because the alternative was letting 15 years of rage explode all over our kitchen, and Tyler was asleep upstairs. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to end it with JD. You're going to quit whatever game you're playing and remember you have a family, or I'm going to make your life very, very complicated." She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes, mascara streaking down her cheeks like war paint. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm promising you." The next morning, I found Tyler sitting on the front porch in the rain, still in his pajamas, shivering like a lost dog. "Hey, buddy, what are you doing out here?" He looked up at me with eyes that were too old for 13. "Mom's friend yelled at me, told me to get out of the kitchen while they were talking." My blood turned to ice water. "Mom's friend is here? Now?" Tyler nodded. The big guy with all the muscles. He pushed me when I asked if he wanted some cereal. I helped Tyler to his feet, my hands shaking with something that wasn't cold. Through our kitchen window, I could see them. Renee in her silk robe, laughing at something JD was saying while he flexed in a tank top that was 2 sizes too small. He'd pushed my son, put his hands on Tyler, and shoved him out of his own kitchen so he could play house with my wife. That's when I stopped being the understanding husband. That's when I remembered what I used to be before marriage and mortgages and PTA meetings turned me soft. Before I became the kind of man who let people walk all over him in the name of keeping the peace. I used to be Staff Sergeant Eli Mercer, and Staff Sergeant Mercer didn't take shit from anyone. I got Tyler dried off and fed while Renee and her boyfriend finished their little morning show in my kitchen. By the time they emerged, I was sitting at my computer in the basement office, downloading the security footage from our cameras. The timestamp read 7:23 a.m. when JD shoved Tyler hard enough to make him stumble. The audio picked up everything: Tyler's polite "excuse me" and JD's response, "Get lost, kid. Adults are talking." Renee just laughed. My wife, Tyler's mother, laughed while some stranger pushed our son around in our own house. I saved the video to 3 different drives and uploaded a copy to the cloud. Then I called my old army buddy Deke. "Mercer, you son of a bitch. It's been months. What's the occasion?" "I need a favor, Deke. The kind we used to do in the old days." There was a pause. Deke had been with me in Afghanistan, back when we were both young and stupid enough to think we could fix the world with good intentions and superior firepower. He knew the tone in my voice. "Someone needs an attitude adjustment?" "Something like that. Can you meet me at Murphy's tonight? 8 o'clock? Wouldn't miss it." Murphy's bar was the kind of place where the beer was cold, the conversation was honest, and nobody asked too many questions. Deke was already there when I arrived, nursing a whiskey and looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "So what's the story?" he asked as I slid into the booth across from him. I told him everything. About Renee, about JD, about finding Tyler on the porch that morning. Deke listened without interrupting, his face getting darker with each detail. "And you want to do what, exactly?" "I want to remind them that actions have consequences. I want to show them what happens when you mess with the wrong family." Deke grinned, and for a moment, we were both 25 again, planning operations in some godforsaken desert outpost. "What did you have in mind?" Over the next 2 hours, we laid out a plan. Nothing illegal, nothing that could come back to bite us in court. Just a series of carefully orchestrated reminders that Eli Mercer wasn't the pushover they thought he was. The first step was information. I'd already hacked into Renee's laptop. 15 years of marriage meant I knew all her passwords. What I found there made my stomach turn. She'd been siphoning money from her PR firm's accounts to fund JD's failing fitness business. Small amounts at first, then larger ones as his debts piled up. She'd also been using company credit cards for their hotel rendezvous, billing them as client entertainment. But the worst part was the emails. Months of them, detailing how much she hated her life, how trapped she felt, how she couldn't wait to leave me and Tyler behind. "Eli's such a loser," she'd written to JD just last week. "Always moping around about his security business like anyone cares. At least when this is over, I'll never have to pretend to find him attractive again." I forwarded copies of everything to an anonymous email account, then started making phone calls. The first call went to Renee's boss, Sandra Mitchell. I'd met Sandra at company parties, a sharp woman who didn't tolerate nonsense. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is a concerned citizen. I thought you should know that one of your employees has been misusing company funds." I didn't give my name, just enough details to get her attention. The second call went to Renee's biggest client, a local restaurant chain that represented 60% of her business. "Mr. Patterson, you might want to take a look at how your PR budget is being spent. I'm sending you some documentation that might interest you." The third call was to my neighbor, Mrs. Braddock. She was 78 years old, had lived on our street for 40 years, and knew everyone's business before they knew it themselves. "Mrs. Braddock, it's Eli Mercer from next door. I wanted to give you a heads up about some activity at my house. My wife's been having some visitors while I'm at work. I'm concerned about the neighborhood's safety." Mrs. Braddock made sympathetic noises and promised to keep an eye on things. By tomorrow, half the neighborhood would know that Renee Mercer was stepping out on her husband. The final piece of the puzzle was JD himself. Deke had done some reconnaissance and discovered that JD's gym was hemorrhaging money. His car was 3 payments behind, and his landlord was threatening eviction. "Guy's a walking disaster," Deke reported. "All flash, no substance. He's been bragging to anyone who'll listen about his rich married girlfriend who's going to solve all his problems." That gave me an idea. Saturday morning, I drove to JD's gym during peak hours. The place was exactly what I'd expected. All chrome and mirrors and guys who spent more time taking selfies than actually working out. JD was holding court near the bench press, regaling a group of meatheads with stories of his conquests. I caught enough to make me sick. "So this married chick I'm seeing, right? Her husband's this pathetic little security guard who doesn't even know what's going on. She says he's so boring in bed, she has to think about me just to get through it." His audience laughed and high-fived like he'd just cured cancer. "Best part is, she's loaded. Been buying me all kinds of stuff, helping with the business. Once she dumps the loser husband, we're going to take over this whole town." I'd heard enough. I walked over to the group, my expression neutral. "Excuse me, are you JD?" He looked me up and down, taking in my average height, my dad bod, my unremarkable face. I could see him dismissing me as harmless. "Yeah, that's me. You need something?" "I'm Eli Mercer, Renee's husband." The gym went quiet. Every conversation stopped. Every weight machine fell silent. JD's face went through about 6 different emotions before settling on fake bravado. "Oh, hey man, look, I don't know what Renee told you, but..." I held up a hand. "She didn't tell me anything. I figured it out on my own. I'm not here to fight you, JD. I'm here to give you some free advice." He relaxed slightly, probably thinking I was going to be the understanding cuckold husband. "Yeah? What's that?" "Stay away from my son." The words came out quiet, conversational. But something in my tone made JD take a step back. "I don't know what you're talking about, man. You pushed my 13-year-old son yesterday morning, in his own house, while you were playing grab-ass with my wife." The gym was silent now. Everyone was staring at us, waiting to see what would happen next. "Look, it wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I have it on video." JD's face went pale. "Video? High definition. Audio too. You want to sleep with my wife? That's between me and her. But you put your hands on my kid, and now it's between you and me." I stepped closer, close enough that only he could hear what I said next. "I spent 8 years in the army, JD. 3 tours in Afghanistan. I know 47 different ways to hurt someone without leaving marks, and I know how to make it look like an accident. You touch Tyler again, and you'll learn about all 47. I stepped back and smiled like we'd just been discussing the weather. "Anyway, nice meeting you. Enjoy your workout." I walked out of the gym, leaving JD standing there like a statue. By the time I got to my car, I could hear the conversation starting up again, everyone talking at once about what they'd just witnessed. My phone buzzed with a text from Renee. "What the hell did you say to JD? He's freaking out." I typed back, "Just introduce myself. Figured it was time we met." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "We need to talk." "Yes," I replied. "We do." Renee was waiting for me when I got home, pacing around the living room like a caged animal. Tyler was at his friend's house, which was probably for the best. "You can't just threaten people, Eli." "I didn't threaten anyone, I had a conversation." "JD says you threatened to hurt him." "JD says a lot of things. Most of them are lies." She stopped pacing and stared at me. "What's gotten into you? You're acting like what? Like a man who's tired of being disrespected in his own house? You're scaring me." "Good. Maybe now you'll take me seriously." I walked past her toward the kitchen and she grabbed my arm. "Eli, please. Can't we just talk about this like adults?" I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. "Adults don't sneak around behind their spouse's back. Adults don't steal money from their employer to fund their boyfriend's failing business. Adults don't let strangers push their children around." She dropped her hand, like I'd burned her. "How do you know about the money?" "I know everything, Renee. The hotel receipts, the company credit cards, the emails where you call me a loser and plan your new life with Muscle Boy." Her face went white. "You went through my computer? It's our computer, bought with our money, in our house. You had no right." "I had every right. I'm your husband, remember? Or did you forget that part when you were playing house with JD?" She sank onto the couch, all the fight going out of her. "What do you want, Eli?" "I want you to end it. I want you to pay back the money you stole. And I want you to remember that you have a family that depends on you. And if I don't?" I sat down across from her, leaning forward with my elbows on my knees. "Then I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are. Your boss, your clients, your friends, the neighbors, everyone. You wouldn't? Try me." We stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, she looked away. "I can't just end it, Eli. It's complicated." "Uncomplicate it. You don't understand. JD, he's not going to just let me go. He's invested in this relationship, financially." "You mean he's invested in your money?" She nodded miserably. "He owes people, bad people. He needs the money I've been giving him." "Then he should get a job." "It's not that simple. These people he owes, they're not the kind who accept payment plans." I felt a cold smile spread across my face. "So you're telling me that your boyfriend is mixed up with dangerous people, and you've been using our family's money to pay his debts?" "It's not like that." "It's exactly like that." Jesus Christ, Renee. Do you have any idea what you've done? What you've exposed Tyler to? The reality of the situation was starting to sink in. This wasn't just about an affair anymore. This was about dangerous people who might decide that Renee and her family were responsible for JD's debts. "I need names," I said. "I need to know exactly who we're dealing with." "I can't tell you that. They'll eliminate me. They'll eliminate you anyway if JD can't pay. At least this way, I can protect Tyler." She was crying now, ugly tears that smeared her makeup and made her look older than her 31 years. "His name is Vincent Carlucci. He runs book out of a restaurant downtown. JD owes him $40,000. Vincent Carlucci. I knew that name. Every security professional in the city knew that name. He was old-school organized crime, the kind of guy who still believed in making examples out of people who didn't pay their debts. "How much have you given JD?" "About $30,000 over the past 6 months. So he still owes $10,000. She nodded. "And what happens when Carlucci finds out JD's been using stolen money to pay him?" Her face went even paler. "Oh God, I didn't think about that." "Of course you didn't. You were too busy playing out your little fantasy to consider the consequences. I stood up and started pacing, my mind racing through possibilities. This changed everything. I couldn't just humiliate JD and Renee anymore. I had to protect my family from the fallout of their stupidity. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to call JD and tell him it's over. You're going to stop giving him money, and you're going to start paying back what you stole from your company. But what about Carlucci? What about the $10,000 JD still owes? That's JD's problem. He got himself into this mess. He can get himself out. But, no buts, Renee. You've done enough damage. From now on, you focus on fixing what you broke, starting with our marriage. She looked up at me with desperate eyes. Can we fix it, Eli? After everything I've done? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to tell her that love conquers all, that we could work through anything if we tried hard enough. But the truth was, I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. I didn't know if I even wanted to. I don't know, I said. But we're going to try, for Tyler's sake. The next morning, I got a call from Deke. You see the news? What news? JD's gym burned down last night. Total loss. I felt my blood turn to ice. Anyone hurt? Nah, happened after hours. Fire department's calling it electrical, but word on the street is that Vincent Carlucci sent a message. I hung up and immediately called Renee at work. We need to talk now. I can't leave work, Eli. Sandra's been watching me like a hawk since yesterday. JD's gym burned down. Silence. Renee? Oh God, this is all my fault. Meet me at Murphy's in an hour. And Renee, don't call JD, don't text him. Don't have any contact with him at all. But what if he's hurt? What if Carlucci's people are watching him? What if they see you together and decide you're part of the problem? More silence. 1 hour, Renee. Don't be late. She was already there when I arrived, huddled in a corner booth with a cup of coffee that had gone cold. She looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Is this really happening? She asked as I sat down. It's happening. The question is, what are we going to do about it? I don't know. I'm scared, Eli. Really scared. For the first time since this whole mess started, I felt sorry for her. She was in over her head, drowning in consequences she'd never considered. Have you talked to JD? He called me this morning crying, said Carlucci's people told him he has 72 hours to come up with the money, or they're going to start breaking things that don't heal. And he wants me to take out a loan against our house. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Of course he does. Let me guess. He told you it was the only way to keep our family safe? She nodded miserably. Renee, listen to me very carefully. JD is using you. He's always been using you. And now that his back is against the wall, he's willing to sacrifice our entire family to save his own skin. But what if Carlucci comes after us? He won't. Not if we handle this right. I pulled out my phone and showed her a number I'd programmed in that morning. Vincent Carlucci's restaurant, I'm going to call him. Are you insane? You can't just call a mobster. Sure I can. I'm going to explain the situation. I'm going to tell him that my wife was being manipulated by JD, that she's cut off all contact, and that his beef is with JD, not us. What if he doesn't believe you? Then we'll deal with that when it happens. But right now, our best option is to be proactive. Show him that we're not a threat, that we're not going to interfere with his business. I dialed the number before I could change my mind. Carlucci's restaurant. I'd like to speak with Mr. Carlucci, please. Tell him it's about JD Danner. Hold on. A few minutes later, a gravelly voice came on the line. This is Vincent Carlucci. Who am I talking to? My name is Eli Mercer. I believe you know JD Danner. I know he owes me money. You calling to pay his debt? No, sir. I'm calling to make sure you understand that my family has nothing to do with his debt. There was a pause. Explain. I told him everything. About Renee's affair, about the stolen money, about how we'd cut off all contact with JD. Carlucci listened without interrupting. So you're telling me this punk has been using your wife to pay me with stolen money? Yes, sir. And as of yesterday, that arrangement is over. Another pause. You got balls, calling me like this. I've got a family to protect. I respect that. Here's what's going to happen. Your wife stays away from JD. You stay away from JD. His debt is his problem, not yours. But if I find out you're lying to me, if I find out you're still connected to this mess, then we're going to have a different conversation. Understood. Good. And Mercer, your wife's got good taste in men. JD's a piece of shit. But you sound like someone who handles his business. The line went silent. Renee was staring at me with wide eyes. What did he say? He said to stay away from JD, which is exactly what we're going to do. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't going to be that simple. JD was desperate, and desperate men do stupid things. It was only a matter of time before he tried to drag us back into his mess. I was right. He showed up at our house that night. The doorbell rang at 11:30 p.m., followed immediately by frantic pounding. I looked through the peephole and saw JD, wild-eyed and sweating despite the cool evening air. "Renee!" he shouted. "I know you're in there. We need to talk." I opened the door before he could wake up the entire neighborhood. "Keep your voice down. My son is sleeping." "I need to see Renee. This is important." "Renee doesn't want to see you. That's not your decision to make." I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "Actually, it is. This is my house, and you're not welcome here." "Look, man, I'm sorry about the thing with your kid, okay? I was stressed out, not thinking straight, but right now, I need Renee's help. What you need is to disappear. Vincent Carlucci made it very clear that my family is off limits." JD's face went white. "You talked to Carlucci?" "I talked to Carlucci. I explained that we're not part of your problem anymore." "But you are part of it. Renee's been helping me for months. She can't just abandon me now." "She can, and she has. Find another way to pay your debts." "There is no other way. Don't you get it? These people will eliminate me." "Then you should have thought of that before you borrowed money you couldn't pay back." JD grabbed my arm, his grip tight enough to leave bruises. "Please, man, I'm begging you, just let me talk to her. 5 minutes. That's all I need." I looked down at his hand on my arm, then back at his face. "Let go of me." "Not until you—" I twisted his wrist in a move I'd learned in basic training 20 years ago. He yelped and released me, stumbling backward. "I told you to stay away from my family. That includes putting your hands on me." "You broke my wrist." "No, I didn't. But I will, if you don't get off my property." He cradled his wrist against his chest, glaring at me with pure hatred. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is." I watched him stumble to his car and drive away, then went back inside. Renee was standing at the top of the stairs in her robe. What did he want? "Money. What do you think he wanted? Is he going to leave us alone? No. He's desperate, and desperate men don't give up easily. We need to be prepared for him to escalate." I was right. The next morning, I found my car keyed, both tires on the driver's side slashed. There was a note tucked under the windshield wiper. "Pay up or pay the price." I called the police and filed a report, making sure to mention JD by name and explain the situation. The responding officer, a tired-looking sergeant named Martinez, took notes and promised to have a patrol car drive by the house a few times during the day. "You might want to consider a restraining order," he suggested. "I'm working on it." That afternoon, I drove to the courthouse and filed for a temporary restraining order against JD. I included the security footage of him pushing Tyler, photos of my vandalized car, and a detailed statement about his threats and harassment. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, reviewed the evidence and granted the order immediately. "Mr. Danner is prohibited from coming within 500 feet of you, your family, or your property," she explained. "Violation of this order is a criminal offense punishable by up to 6 months in jail." I thanked her and left the courthouse feeling better than I had in days. JD might be desperate, but he wasn't stupid enough to risk jail time. I was wrong again. Saturday afternoon, Tyler and I were at the town's annual harvest festival, trying to have some semblance of a normal father-son outing. Tyler was finally starting to relax, laughing at the clowns and begging for cotton candy, when I spotted JD near the beer tent. He was drunk, loud, and telling anyone who would listen about how his life had been ruined by a psycho husband who couldn't handle his wife being with a real man. Guy's a total loser, he slurred to a group of locals. Wife comes crying to me about how boring he is, how he can't satisfy her, you know? So I'm doing her a favor, right? Giving her what she needs, and this asshole has the nerve to threaten me. I felt Tyler tense up beside me. He'd heard every word. Dad, is that the man who pushed me? Yeah, buddy, that's him. Why is he saying those things about Mom? I looked down at my son's confused, hurt face and felt something snap inside me. Stay right here, Tyler, don't move. I walked over to the beer tent, my vision tunneling until all I could see was JD's smug, drunken face. Having fun? I asked. He turned around, swaying slightly. When he saw me, his expression shifted from confusion to anger. Well, if it isn't the cuckold husband. Several people turned to stare at us. I could see Mrs. Braddock nearby, her eyes wide with interest. You're violating your restraining order, I said calmly. What restraining order? I'm not within 500 feet of you. The festival is on public property. The order covers public spaces. His face went pale as he realized his mistake, but instead of backing down, he doubled down. Screw your restraining order, and screw you. Your wife came to me, remember? She's the one who wanted a real man. The crowd around us was growing. I could see people pulling out their phones, getting ready to record whatever happened next. You're drunk, I said. Go home before you make this worse for yourself. Worse? How could it be worse? You already ruined my life. You and that bitch wife of yours. That's when Tyler appeared beside me. I'd told him to stay put, but he was 13 and curious and probably worried about his dad. Tyler, go back. Hey, it's the little brat, JD sneered. Come to watch your daddy get humiliated again? He took a step toward Tyler, and I moved without thinking. My hand shot out and connected with JD's face in a perfect open palm slap that echoed across the festival grounds. JD stumbled backward, tripped over a hay bale, and landed hard on his ass. The crowd gasped, then started murmuring excitedly. You hit me! JD shouted, scrambling to his feet. Everyone saw it! He assaulted me! I slapped you, I corrected. There's a difference. JD charged at me, his fists raised, but he was drunk and clumsy. I sidestepped easily, grabbed his wrist, and used his own momentum to send him sprawling into a display of pumpkins. The crowd cheered. Call the cops! JD yelled, covered in pumpkin guts and hay. This maniac assaulted me. Actually, said Mrs. Braddock, stepping forward with her phone in her hand. I recorded the whole thing. This young man was defending his son from a drunk who was making threats. Several other people nodded in agreement. JD looked around desperately, but he could see that the crowd was against him. You're all crazy. This guy is psycho. The only psycho here is the grown man who's harassing a child, said a voice from the crowd. JD's face went red with rage and humiliation. He pointed a shaking finger at me. This isn't over. You hear me? This isn't over. Yes, it is, I said calmly. Officer Martinez? The police sergeant was pushing through the crowd, his hand resting on his radio. Mr. Mercer, having some trouble. Mr. Danner is violating his restraining order. He's also been drinking and making threats against my family. Martinez looked at JD, who was still covered in pumpkin guts and swaying on his feet. Mr. Danner, you're under arrest for violation of a restraining order and public intoxication. As Martinez cuffed JD and led him away, the crowd dispersed, buzzing with excitement about what they'd just witnessed. Tyler looked up at me with something like awe in his eyes. Dad, are you okay? I'm fine, buddy, Are you okay? He nodded, then hugged me tight. That was awesome. You totally destroyed him. I hugged him back, feeling a mixture of pride and shame. Pride that I'd stood up for my family, shame that Tyler had to see it. Violence isn't the answer, Tyler. I only did that because he was threatening you. I know, Dad, but it was still awesome. That evening, Renee came home from work looking shell-shocked. Everyone's talking about what happened at the festival, she said. Sandra heard about it from 3 different people. And she wants to see me in her office first thing Monday morning. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. About the festival? About everything. Someone sent her copies of my emails, Eli. She knows about the money, about JD, about all of it. The anonymous tip I'd made was finally bearing fruit. Part of me felt satisfied. Renee was finally facing consequences for her actions. But another part of me worried about what this meant for our family's financial stability. What are you going to tell her? The truth, I guess? That I made a terrible mistake and I'm sorry? Will that be enough? She looked at me with tears in her eyes. I don't know. Probably not. Monday morning, Renee left for work looking like she was going to her own execution. I spent the day pacing around the house, checking my phone every few minutes for updates. The call came at 2 p.m. I'm fired, she said, her voice flat and emotionless. Sandra said I violated the company's ethics policy and exposed them to legal liability. She's pressing charges for embezzlement. Jesus, Renee. I have to meet with the police tomorrow. My lawyer says I'll probably get probation if I pay back the money, but... She started crying. How are we going to pay back $30,000? How are we going to pay the mortgage without my income? I closed my eyes and tried to think. We had some savings, but not enough to cover both the restitution and our living expenses. I'd have to expand my security business, maybe take on some of the corporate contracts I'd been avoiding. We'll figure it out, I said, one step at a time. But even as I said it, I knew our problems were just beginning. JD was in jail, but only temporarily. Renee was facing criminal charges, and our marriage was hanging by a thread. The thread snapped that evening when Tyler asked me a question I wasn't prepared for. Dad, are you and Mom getting divorced? I looked at my son's worried face and realized I didn't know how to answer him. The honest answer was probably yes. I didn't see how we could come back from this, but I wasn't ready to say that out loud. I don't know, buddy. We're going through a rough patch right now. Is it because of what Mom did with that man? Smart kid. Too smart for his own good sometimes. It's complicated, Tyler. Adults sometimes make mistakes that hurt the people they love. Do you still love Mom? That was the million-dollar question, wasn't it? Did I still love the woman who'd betrayed me, stolen from her employer, and put our family in danger? Or did I just love the memory of who she used to be? I love the person your mom used to be, I said finally. I'm not sure about the person she is now. Tyler nodded, like that made perfect sense to him. Well, I hope you figure it out, because even though she messed up, she's still my mom. Out of the mouths of babes. JD got out of jail on Tuesday morning. I knew because Mrs. Braddock called to tell me she'd seen him driving slowly past our house. He didn't stop, she assured me. Just drove by real slow-like, staring at your house. Thanks for letting me know, Mrs. Braddock. You want me to call the police? Not yet. But keep your eyes open, okay? You bet I will. I hung up and immediately called Deke. Our friend is back on the streets. Want me to come over? Yeah. Bring your toolbox. Deke arrived an hour later with a duffel bag full of surveillance equipment. We spent the afternoon installing additional cameras around the house, hidden ones that JD wouldn't spot even if he was looking for them. This guy's not going to give up, is he? Deke asked as we tested the motion sensors. Would you? He's lost his business, his girlfriend, and his reputation. He's got nothing left to lose. Those are the dangerous ones. Exactly. That night, I made sure all the doors and windows were locked, checked the security system twice, and went to bed with my old service pistol in the nightstand drawer. I hadn't touched the gun in years, but desperate times called for desperate measures. I was right to be paranoid. At 3 a.m., the motion sensors triggered, flooding my phone with alerts. I grabbed the pistol and crept downstairs to check the monitors. JD was in my garage. He'd somehow gotten the door open and was rummaging through my tools, looking for something. As I watched, he found what he was looking for, a crowbar. I called 911 first, then Deke. "He's in the garage," I whispered, armed with a crowbar. "On my way." "No, stay put. The cops are coming." "Screw that. I'll be there in 10 minutes. The line went silent. I cursed under my breath and focused on the monitors. JD was making his way toward the door that connected the garage to the house, testing the handle. I'd reinforced that door after the first break-in attempt, but a crowbar could still do some damage if he really put his back into it. I crept down to the basement and positioned myself at the bottom of the stairs where I could see both the garage door and the front entrance. If JD made it into the house, I'd have a clear line of sight. The sound of splintering wood echoed through the house as JD started working on the door. Upstairs, I could hear Tyler's bedroom door open. "Dad?" he called softly. "Stay in your room, Tyler. Lock the door." "What's happening?" "Just do what I said." The garage door gave way with a loud crack. JD stumbled into the basement, crowbar raised, looking around wildly. "I know you're down here, you son of a bitch." I stepped out of the shadows, pistol trained on his center mass. "Drop the crowbar, JD." He spun around, eyes wide with surprise and fear. "You're going to shoot me?" "If I have to." "Drop the weapon." "You don't have the balls." "Try me." For a moment, we stared at each other across the basement. JD was sweating, his hands shaking, the crowbar wavering in his grip. "This is all your fault," he said. "Everything that's happened to me is because of you. Everything that's happened to you is because you're a loser who can't take responsibility for his own actions. Shut up. Just shut up." He raised the crowbar like he was going to throw it, and I tightened my grip on the pistol. "Last warning, JD." That's when Deke came through the front door like a one-man SWAT team. He must have picked the lock, a skill he'd learned in the army and refined over the years. "Drop it, asshole." JD spun around, distracted by the new threat, and I took advantage of the moment to close the distance between us. I tackled him around the waist, driving him to the ground and sending the crowbar skittering across the concrete floor. We wrestled for a few seconds, but JD was out of shape, and I was running on pure adrenaline. I managed to pin him face down and twist his arm behind his back. "Deke, there's zip ties in the toolbox." Deke found the zip ties and helped me secure JD's hands and feet. By the time the police arrived, JD was trussed up like a Christmas turkey, crying and begging us not to hurt him. "Please, man, I'm sorry. I wasn't going to hurt anyone. I just wanted to scare you." "By breaking into my house with a crowbar? I wasn't thinking straight. Carlucci's people are after me. I'm desperate." Officer Martinez surveyed the scene. The broken door, the crowbar, JD zip-tied on the floor, and shook his head. "Mr. Danner, you're under arrest for breaking and entering, violation of a restraining order, and attempted assault with a weapon." As they led JD away, he looked back at me with pure hatred in his eyes. "This isn't over. You hear me? This isn't over." "Yeah, it is," I said. "It really is." But I was wrong. Again. The next morning, Renee got a call from her lawyer. Someone had filed a complaint with Child Protective Services, claiming that I was an unfit father who kept weapons in the house and exposed Tyler to violence. "They're sending a caseworker to interview Tyler," Renee said, her voice shaking. "If they decide we're unfit parents, they could take Tyler away." The complaint was anonymous, but the lawyer thinks it came from JD. Even from jail, he's still trying to destroy us. I felt rage building in my chest, like a pressure cooker about to explode. This bastard had cheated with my wife, stolen my money, threatened my family, broken into my house, and now he was trying to take my son away. What do we need to do? Clean house. Literally. Remove anything that could be seen as dangerous. The guns, the security equipment, anything that makes us look paranoid or unstable. I spent the rest of the day hiding evidence of the war JD had forced us to fight. The pistol went into a safety deposit box at the bank. The surveillance equipment went to Deke's house. I even took down the extra locks I'd installed on the doors. By the time the CPS caseworker arrived, our house looked like something out of a magazine, clean, safe, and utterly normal. The caseworker, a middle-aged woman named Janet Powell, interviewed Tyler for over an hour. I waited in the kitchen, pacing like an expectant father, while Renee sat at the table with her head in her hands. When Tyler finally emerged from the living room, he looked tired, but not traumatized. "How did it go, buddy?" "Fine, I guess. She asked a lot of questions about you and Mom, about whether I felt safe at home, stuff like that." "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That you're the best dad in the world, and that you only got mad at that man because he was mean to me." I hugged him tight, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. Ms. Powell emerged a few minutes later, her expression neutral. "I'll be submitting my report to the court within 48 hours, she said. "Based on my interview with Tyler and my observations of the home environment, I don't see any immediate cause for concern." I felt like I could breathe again for the first time in days. "However," she continued, "I am concerned about the level of conflict in this household. Tyler is clearly aware of the marital problems, and he's been exposed to some traumatic situations recently." "We're working on that," Renee said. "I hope so, for Tyler's sake." After she left, the three of us sat in the living room in exhausted silence. Tyler was playing a video game, but I could tell he was listening to our conversation. "We can't go on like this," Renee said quietly. "I know. So, what do we do?" I looked at my son, then at my wife, and realized that I'd been asking the wrong question all along. It wasn't about whether I could forgive Renee or whether our marriage could survive. It was about what was best for Tyler. "We end it," I said. "All of it. We get divorced, we sell the house, we start over." Renee nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Okay. But we do it right. No more fighting, no more drama. We put Tyler first and we handle this like adults." "Okay." Tyler looked up from his game. "Are you guys getting divorced?" "Yeah, buddy, we are." "Will I still get to see both of you?" "Of course. We'll work out a schedule that's fair to everyone." He nodded and went back to his game, apparently satisfied with that answer. But I wasn't satisfied. Not by a long shot. JD had destroyed my marriage, cost my wife her job, put my family in danger, and nearly gotten my son taken away by CPS, and he was going to pay for all of it. JD's trial was set for the following month, but his lawyer managed to get him released on bail pending the hearing. The conditions were strict: no contact with me or my family, no alcohol, and he had to wear an ankle monitor. But it still galled me that he was walking free after everything he'd done. Renee and I had filed for divorce, and the proceedings were moving forward with surprising civility. We'd agreed to split custody of Tyler 50-50, sell the house, and divide the assets equally after paying off her restitution. It should have felt like closure, but it didn't. JD was still out there, still breathing, still living his life, while mine lay in ruins around me. I was having these thoughts while sitting at Murphy's bar on a Thursday night, nursing my third beer and trying to figure out what came next. The bar was mostly empty, just me, the bartender, and a few regulars watching the game on the ancient TV mounted above the bottles. That's when JD walked in. He looked terrible. His face was gaunt, his clothes were wrinkled, and his cocky swagger had been replaced by the nervous shuffle of a broken man. He spotted me immediately and froze in the doorway like a deer caught in headlights. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then JD seemed to gather his courage and walked over to my table. "Eli." "JD." He gestured to the empty chair across from me. "Can I sit?" I shrugged. "It's a free country." He sat down carefully, like he was afraid I might attack him. The bartender came over, but JD waved him away. I'm not supposed to be drinking. We sat in silence for a minute, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. I wanted to apologize, JD said finally. For which part? Sleeping with my wife, stealing my money, threatening my kid, or trying to have him taken away by CPS? He flinched at each item on the list. All of it. I know I screwed up, man. I know I hurt you and your family, and I'm sorry. You're sorry. Yeah, I really am. I took a long pull from my beer and studied his face. He looked sincere, but then again, he'd probably looked sincere when he was telling Renee he loved her. What do you want, JD? I want to make things right. I know I can't undo what I did, but maybe I can make amends somehow. You want to make amends? Yeah. Okay, here's how you make amends. You leave town, tonight. You disappear and never come back. I can't do that. My trial? Screw your trial. You plead guilty, do your time, and when you get out, you start over somewhere else, somewhere far away from me and my family. But I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have any money, no friends. That's not my problem. JD's face crumpled. Please, man, I'm begging you. I've lost everything. My business, my apartment, my car. Carlucci's people are still looking for me. I've got nothing left. Good. What? I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a whisper. I said good. You deserve to lose everything. You deserve to be scared and alone and desperate. You deserve every bad thing that's happened to you and every bad thing that's going to happen. I know I hurt you, but you didn't hurt me, JD. You destroyed me. You took 15 years of my life and set them on fire for your own amusement. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. You saw a lonely housewife, and you decided to play with her emotions for your own benefit. You didn't care about her. You didn't care about her family. You didn't care about the damage you were doing. All you cared about was getting what you wanted. JD was crying now, big, ugly tears rolling down his cheeks. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Save it. Your apology is worth exactly as much as your promise to pay back Carlucci, which is to say, nothing. I finished my beer and stood up. Enjoy your life, JD. What's left of it. I was halfway to the door when he called after me. Wait, please, just wait a minute. I turned around. JD had gotten to his feet, his face desperate. What if I told everyone the truth? What if I went public and admitted that I manipulated Renee, that I used her, that you were just protecting your family? What makes you think I care what people think? Your reputation, your business. My business is doing fine. Turns out people respect a man who stands up for his family. Then what do you want from me? I walked back over to him, close enough that I could smell the fear on his breath. I want you to suffer. I want you to lie awake at night wondering when Carlucci's people are going to find you. I want you to jump at every shadow, flinch at every loud noise, spend every day looking over your shoulder. I want you to live in the same kind of fear you put my family through. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about fair? Fair would be me putting you in the hospital. Fair would be me destroying your life the same way you destroyed mine. Fair would be me making sure you never hurt another family the way you hurt ours. JD took a step backward, his eyes wide with terror. But I'm not going to do any of those things, I continued. You know why? Because I'm better than you. Because I have something you'll never have. Honor, integrity, the respect of people who matter. I turned to leave again, but this time he didn't try to stop me. You're going to regret this, he shouted after me. You could have helped me, but you chose to be vindictive. When something bad happens to me, it'll be on your head. I paused at the door and looked back at him one last time. Something bad already happened to you, JD. You became the kind of man who destroys families for fun. Everything else is just consequences. I walked out of Murphy's bar and never looked back. 3 days later, I got a call from Officer Martinez. Thought you'd want to know. JD Danner was found lifeless this morning. I felt my blood turn to ice. Lifeless? How? Car accident. Looks like he was driving drunk, went off the road into Miller's Creek. Probably died on impact. Any indication it wasn't an accident? None. Guy had a blood alcohol level of .25. He was completely wasted. I thanked Martinez and hung up, my hands shaking slightly. JD was gone. The man who had destroyed my marriage, threatened my son, and turned my life upside down was gone. I should have felt relief, or satisfaction, or closure. Instead, I felt empty. That evening I told Tyler about JD's passing. He took the news with the matter-of-fact acceptance that kids sometimes show in the face of adult complexities. "Does this mean the bad stuff is over?" he asked. "Yeah, buddy. The bad stuff is over." Good. I was getting tired of all the drama. Out of the mouths of babes. A week later, Renee and I finalized our divorce. We met at the lawyer's office to sign the papers, both of us subdued and emotionally drained. "Any regrets?" she asked as we walked out of the building. I thought about it for a moment. Yeah, I regret that it took me so long to stand up for myself. I regret that Tyler had to see all that ugliness. And I regret that you felt like you had to look outside our marriage for whatever it was you needed. What about JD? Do you regret what happened to him? That was the question I'd been asking myself for days. Did I regret that JD was gone? Did I feel responsible for his self-destructive spiral? No, I said finally. I don't regret what happened to JD. He made his choices, and he lived with the consequences, just like we all do. Renee nodded. I keep thinking about what might have happened if I'd made different choices, if I'd talked to you instead of running to him. Don't torture yourself with what-ifs. We can't change the past. Can we change the future? I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She was still beautiful, still the woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. But she was also a stranger, someone who'd made choices I couldn't understand or forgive. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday we can be friends again for Tyler's sake, but we'll never be what we were. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I know, I wanted you to know that I loved you. I still love you. I just lost my way for a while. I know you did, and I loved you too. But love isn't always enough. We parted ways in the parking lot, two people who'd shared 15 years and a son, but who could no longer share a life. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new apartment, a modest 2-bedroom place across town that Tyler had helped me decorate. He was with Renee for the weekend, and I was enjoying the quiet. My security business had expanded significantly in the wake of all the publicity from JD's harassment campaign. Turns out, a lot of people wanted to hire the guy who'd stood up to a stalker and won. I was busier than I'd been in years, and for the first time in a long time, I was genuinely happy with my work. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. "Dad, can we go fishing next weekend? Mom says it's okay." I typed back, "Absolutely. I'll pick you up Saturday morning." "Awesome. Love you, Dad." "Love you too, buddy." I set the phone aside and opened a beer, thinking about how much my life had changed in the past year. I'd lost a wife, but I'd gained something more valuable: self-respect. I'd learned that I didn't have to be a victim, that I could fight back when someone tried to destroy what I'd built. Most importantly, I'd learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't what you do to your enemies. Sometimes it's what you do with your life after they're gone. I raised my beer in a toast to the empty apartment. "Here's to new beginnings," I said aloud. And for the first time in a very long time, I meant it.